The history of architecture. The history of architecture traces the changes in architecture through various traditions, regions, overarching stylistic trends, and dates. The beginnings of all these traditions is thought to be humans, satisfying the very basic need of shelter and protection. The term architecture generally refers to buildings, but in its essence is much broader, including fields we now consider specialized forms of practice such as urbanism, civil engineering, naval, military, and landscape architecture. Looking at the archaeological remains of ancient and medieval buildings, it is easy to perceive them as limestone and concrete in a gray taupe tone, and make the assumption that ancient buildings were monochromatic. However, architecture was polychromed in much of the ancient and medieval world. One of the most iconic ancient buildings, the Parthenon, around 447 to 432 BC in Athens, had details painted with vibrant reds, blues, and greens. Besides ancient temples, the medieval cathedrals were never completely white. Most had colored highlights on capitals and columns. The practice of coloring buildings and artworks was abandoned during the early Renaissance. This is because Leonardo da Vinci and other Renaissance artists, including Michelangelo, promoted a color palette inspired by the ancient Greco-Roman ruins, which because of neglect and constant decay during the Middle Ages became white despite being initially colorful. The pigments used in the ancient world were delicate and especially susceptible to weathering. Without necessary care, the colors exposed to rain, snow, dirt, and other factors vanished over time, and this way ancient buildings and artworks became white like they are today and were during the Renaissance. Mesopotamian Architecture. Mesopotamia is most noted for its construction of mud brick buildings and ziggurats, occupying a prominent place in each city and consisting of an artificial mound, often rising in huge steps, surmounted by a temple. The mound was no doubt to elevate the temple to a commanding position in what was otherwise a flat river valley. The great city of Uruk had a number of religious precincts containing many temples larger and more ambitious than any building previously known. So, what are ziggurats? The word ziggurat is an anglicized form of the Akkadian word sikuratum, the name given to the solid step towers of mud brick. It derives from the verb zakaru, or meaning to be high. The buildings are described as being like mountains linking earth and heaven. The Ziggurat of War, excavated by Leonard Woolley, is 64 by 46 meters at base and originally some 12 meters in height, with 3 stories. It was built under Ur-Nammu, which reigned around about 2100 BC, and rebuilt under Nabonidus, which reigned approximately at about 555 to 539 BC, when it was increased in height to probably 7 stories. Buddhist Architecture. It developed in the Indian subcontinent during the 4th and 2nd century BC and spread first to China and then further across Asia. 3 types of structures are associated with the religious architecture of early Buddhism: monasteries or viharas, places to venerate relics or the stupas, and shrines or prayer halls, or chaityas, or also called chaitya grihas, which later came to be called temples in some places. The most iconic Buddhist type of building is the stupa, which consists of a domed structure containing relics used as a place of meditation to commemorate Buddha. The dome symbolized an infinite space of the sky. Architectural advances are an important part of the Neolithic period. This was around 10,000 to 2000 BC, during which some of the major innovations of human history occurred. The domestication of plants and animals, for example, led to both new economics and a new relationship between people and the world, an increase in community size and permanence, a massive development of material culture, and new social and ritual solutions to enable people to live together in these communities.
Egyptian architecture. The first great civilization to emerge around the Mediterranean basin was that of Egypt in 3100 to 2040 BCE. In addition to its own written language, religion, and dynastic ruling class, it developed a unique style of Egyptian architecture, largely consisting of massive burial chambers in the form of pyramids at Giza and underground tombs in the desolate Valley of the Kings, Luxor. Design was monumental but not architecturally complex, and employed posts and lintels rather than arcs, although Egyptian expertise in stone had a strong influence on later Greek architecture.